Hey guys, my name is Tommy. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to a brand new video series. I love roleplay challenges and I love hearing from you guys, but I am hearing the call for other video series more than I'm hearing response to roleplay challenges. So today, we kick off a brand new series where we're going to discuss the lore of the Pathfinder gods. In keeping with the spirit of this channel, we're going to avoid the non-core deities unless, of course, someone specifically requests I cover Eomade, Caden, Kalia, and Asmodeus. We're going to talk about the gods that people don't hear about as much. Gods who people might not even know exist, because a lot of them are really cool, a lot of them have really strong Deific Obediences, and hey, what can I say? I like sharing. So with no further ado, let me welcome you to this channel's first ever Wednesday afternoon worship. Today we're going to be talking about the gods of dragons, none other than Apsu and Dahak. These videos are brought to you by our patrons, and since I only have one patron at this tier at the moment, this probably being his evil plan to take all of my subscribers, this episode of Wednesday Afternoon Worship was brought to you by the Inn of Planar Crossroads. These guys run a lot of Paizo APs, and specifically, I've been watching Rise of the Rune Lords. It's a whole lot of fun. You guys should go over to his channel. I'll throw a link in the description. Definitely watch when you can, if for no other reason than to watch the party's witch do his very best to try to kill his spellbook. So time is running out on your chance to win not one but two copies of Divinity Original Sin 2. If you want a free RPG, and why wouldn't you, the link is in the description. Anyway, enough about that. Let's go. On planet Earth, Apsu is depicted as a deity in the Babylonian creation epic taken from the library of Assurbanipal. In his story, he was a primal being made of fresh water and a lover to another primal deity, Tiamat, who was a creature of salt water. Their creation epic reads, "When above the heavens did not yet exist, nor the earth below, Apsu, the freshwater ocean, was there, the first, the begetter, and Tiamat, the saltwater sea, she who bore them all. They were still mixing their waters. No pasture land had yet been formed, not even a reed marsh." This results in the birth of younger gods, who would later go on to murder Apsu in order to usurp his power. Enraged by this, Tiamat gave birth to the first dragons, filling their bodies with venom instead of blood, and made war upon her children, only to be slain by Marduk, the god of storms, who then forms the heavens and earth from her corpse. In ancient Iranian folklore, Dahaka is the most significant and long-lasting entity in the earliest religious texts of Zoroastrianism. He is described as a monster with 3 mouths, 6 eyes, and 3 heads, presumably meaning a 3-headed monster. In other respects, he has human qualities and is never described as an animal. Across several texts, Dahaka appears possessed of sins. He appears having a brother attacking heroes. Basically just a big bad evil guy from Persian mythology. Anybody remember Prince of Persia, the Warrior Within? Remember that big old scary thing that would chase you as you're running along walls? Yeah, okay, this guy. Pathfinder tells a similar story, except for one minor tweak. Both Apsu and Dahak in Pathfinder are dragons. The creation myth flows about the same. According to draconic lore, in the beginning of time there flowed 2 waters, fresh and salt, which became Apsu and his mate Tiamat. They spawned the dragon gods who created the mortal world, but their first child, the destructive Dahak, traveled to hell to revel and rampage, turning it into a place of darkness and ever-burning fire. Dahak then struck out at his siblings, destroying each in turn. The shattered remains of these draconic gods formed the first metallic dragons, who were cast onto the material plane as mortals. This enraged the fresh water, who realized that he must take a name so that he could descend upon the material plane to confront his son. The fresh water then declared the immortal words, "I shall then be Apsu, for I am the first." Apsu was aided by the metallic dragons in his quest, and the ensuing battle eventually saw Dahak laid low. But this came at a terrible price, for many of the dragons sustained mortal injuries. Just as Apsu prepared to kill Dahak, the evil dragon called out to his mother, the Great Salt Sea. Unwilling to see her first son perish, the still nameless sea offered to heal the battle's brutalized survivors in exchange for their efforts to save Dahak's life. Weakened and suffering, some accepted, exchanging goodness for evil, and Dahak escaped his father's claws. Though the metallic dragons were poised to pursue Dahak, Apsu asked them to save their rage for another day. He then asked his mate why she aided their son, but she merely named herself Tiamat, mother of all, a name that still brings pain, and held Apsu responsible for the deaths of her children. Tiamat then expelled him from their primordial realm, and Apsu vowed that one day he would make his stand against Dahak. Ever since, their bitter enmity has been the source of discord amongst all the dragons of the cosmos. Apsu has accepted the inevitability of a final conflict with his son, choosing for whatever reason a dragon god might, the world of Galarion, as the world where Apsu will make his last stand. Tiamat's intervention at that fateful battle created the first chromatic dragons, and they withdrew along with Dahak to lick their wounds. Dahak eventually learned of his father's creation of the roaming demiplane, known as the Immortal Ambulatory, and he prepared to siege his father's realm in a decisive battle. At this time, however, all the deities of the world converge in a great battle against everyone's favorite chaotic evil monster, Rovagug. Dahak knew that Apsu would be present, and he intended to show up to the battle and betray his father at a key moment in the struggle. Instead, some part of Dahak recognized the universal threat that Rovagug presented to the multiverse, and so he fully committed to the effort to imprison Rovagug. As the dust settled over that conflict, Apsu spoke with his son, telling Dahak that he expected betrayal, and that he was surprised it had not manifested itself. Dahak vowed to kill his father, and this is where Apsu declares that Galarion will be their final battlefield. If Dahak ever returns to this world to wreak havoc, potentially weakening the bonds that hold Rovagug, Apsu has pledged to stop him. Apsu lives in the Immortal Ambulatory, where vast islands glide within the demiplane, each the ultimate destination for the souls of a different type of metallic dragon. A multi-environmental island floats at the edge of this realm, home to the first chromatic dragons who serve Apsu in his home domain. Dahak resides in the Adamantine Morass, a web of tunnels stretching through the lowest depths of Hell's 8th layer. These winding paths begin as a maze of dirt and stone and end in a series of warrens leading into a realm of adamantine where Dahak stalks those foolish enough to enter his realm uninvited. So, long story short, we're looking at a god of chromatic dragons and a god of metallic dragons getting ready to have their final battle on that plane where we're adventuring. Personally, I'm hoping it gets written in as canon that this is why Galarion is gone in the events of Starfinder, because what more can we ask for a climactic ending to that place we used to call home than dragons fighting dragons burning the place? Of course, all of this information is wonderful and all, but how does this apply to our characters? Apsu is lawful good, and his followers typically travel from place to place, building up the local defenses of the region against whatever threats they might happen to encounter. For our clerics and war priests and stuff, his domains are Artifice, Good, Law, Scaly Kind, and Travel. His subdomains are Archon, Construct, Dragon, Exploration, Toil, and Trade. His favored weapon is either a bite or a quarterstaff. His centers of worship include Absalom, Taldor, and the planet Triaxis. Dahak's worshippers are a lot like Rovagug's. They revel in destruction, they revel in their own power. However, they're a little more civilized than the rough beast's followers, and they know how to contain their anger until the right moment comes where they smash heads in. Dahak's domains are Chaos, Destruction, Evil, Scaly Kind, and Trickery, with the subdomains Catastrophe, Deception, Demon, Dragon, Rage, and Thievery. His favored weapon is either a bite or a whip, and his centers of worship are the Darklands, the Shackles, and Thuvia. Of course, since Apsu is lawful good, and Dahak is chaotic evil, paladins and anti-paladins, respectively, flock to the dragon gods to pledge their service or to gain power. Apsu's paladin code contains the following. I am the Talon of Apsu's wrath. I strike where I am needed, but only when evil has been unmasked and there can be no doubt of my enemy's malice. When my purpose is unclear, I will walk the roads of the world to find a fresh focus. Every road leads to a new beginning. Nothing is worth sacrificing my life for except protecting the lives of others. I will retreat when needed and come back to vex my foes once again. Mercy is offered, but only once. Should I be betrayed in my moment of kindness, I will not stop until I have put my enemy down. It is not enough to slay evil and carry on. I will spend the time necessary to help those I've protected to fend for themselves. Dahak's anti-paladin code takes a complete opposite stance, as one would certainly imagine, and reads something like this. I am an instrument of destruction, but the power I wield is mine to control, gifted to me by Dahak. My wrath is ceaseless. It is by my judgment alone to decide when I shall unleash it. Once I strike an enemy, I will not stop until they are dead. None are safe from the rage that boils within me. While some may be spared immediate death, I offer no such lenience to the metallic dragons, greatest of enemies to the power that gives me strength. Forgiveness is for the weak. If I am slighted, I will go to any lengths to enact my vengeance. I really like the paladin and anti-paladin codes that Paizo produces. It makes a really good guideline for the GM who has a paladin or anti-paladin and doesn't know exactly what constitutes a fall from grace. All of the core deities and many of the non-core deities within one step of lawful good or chaotic evil have paladin or anti-paladin codes, and if you'd like a guide to figure out if your paladin or anti-paladin is adhering close enough to their deity's teachings, look no further than here. Bar none, one of the strongest things about Pathfinder's deities is the feat Deific Obedience. Introduced to us in Inner Sea Gods, this allows us, in exchange for, give or take, an hour's worth of dedication to our god every morning, special effects that we receive at 12th, 16th, and 20th level. There's 3 separate paths for these boons: Evangelist, Sentinel, and Exalted. Without a dip into the Evangelist or Sentinel prestige class, a character only has access to the Exalted boon. However, these boons are often well worth a level dip into a prestige class, as they can really take a character into the realm of the uber powerful. Like I said, each obedience requires us to take an hour-ish a day and do something special in service to our gods. The Deific Obedience of Apsu requires us to pick a direction and walk that way for the next 30 minutes. During this time, catalog all the areas you pass and consider any tactical advantages that can be found in the terrain. After this, retrace your steps, but instead of plotting tactics, appreciate the beauty and scenery that you find along your way, and speak quiet prayers or praises of the Waybringer, keeping in mind that none of what you've seen would exist were it not for Apsu. You then gain a +2 sacred bonus on perception checks while you are traveling in this area, and a +4 sacred bonus on checks to notice enemies for the purpose of acting in a surprise round while you are traveling or camping there. Apsu's Evangelist boons aren't really a whole lot to write home about, so we're not going to talk about them here, but the capstones for both his Exalted boons and his Sentinel boons are pretty powerful. The Exalted boons cap out at an ability called Homeward Bound, which allow a player to, once per month, designate a location to be their refuge. Once per week, as a full round action that provokes an attack of opportunity, you can teleport yourself and any willing creature within 30 feet to the safe home of your choice, regardless of distance, as long as it's on the same plane. You can have a maximum of these equal to half your hit dice. As long as none of your allies are in this refuge, you can remove its designation as a swift action, but if you do so, you can never designate it again as a safe home. Remember how we talked about the party that killed without combat, that needed a place to teleport in and out of, a sort of base of operations nobody could find? Yeah, Apsu gives that to our lawful characters, and it gives it to them with no dip into a prestige class, not even any need for a casting class. The capstone to his Sentinel boon, Chromatic Scourge, allows us to, once per day as a swift action, imbue our weapon with the hidden wrath of Apsu. If our target is evil, and if we're playing someone who worships the lawful good god, I bet it is, you gain a +20 profane bonus, which I'm assuming now that I read this is probably a typo, on your next single attack. If your opponent is an evil-aligned creature of the dragon type, treat your next single attack roll as both an automatic hit and a critical threat. You gain a +4 profane, I'm going to assume that says sacred, bonus to confirm that critical hit. Not quite as strong as the Exalted boon, and it does require us to dip Sentinel. If you need a free True Strike that stacks with True Strike, by all means, dip Sentinel. Dahak's boons are a lot weaker, and we're not going to discuss them here, because in this one's humble opinion, and of course I may be wrong, and if you believe I'm wrong, throw it in the comments, prove me wrong. Please, I love learning more about Pathfinder, but I just don't think they're that strong. For flavor's sake, and for those of us who may wish to build characters that worship the endless destruction, we'll still go ahead and talk about his obedience, because this game would be nothing without the tasty flavor that makes Pathfinder what it is. Dahak's obedience requires us to remain entirely silent for 1 hour, while we pray to Dahak, ruminating over the glories of wanton destruction, committed as the culmination of waiting and planning. While you pray, let hate and anger fill you until you must lash out. Following your prayer, destroy an item worth at least 1 GP, and use the shattered remains to cut yourself, preferably along pre-existing scar lines, while espousing your love of chaos and destruction. Such an action deals you 1 point of damage that cannot be healed for the following 24 hours, but it nets you a +2 profane bonus on bluff and intimidate checks against creatures who can see your scars. Okay, yeah, this is a little creepy, I'm not gonna lie, but it's super flavorful for a god of chaos and destruction and fire and things like that. And believe me, of all the Deific Obediences, this is far from the creepiest. We're not gonna discuss the creepy ones here. Just no, not gonna happen. So how do you guys feel about Apsu and Dahak? This channel won't always cover the gods side by side, but I feel like in this case it's only fair to put the two together. Have you ever played a worshipper of either deity? Have you ever GM'd for a worshipper of either deity? Are you looking forward to a potential Pathfinder or Starfinder adventure path where these guys come to blows and tear each other and the planet Galarion to pieces? I know I am. If so, throw it in the comments below and we'll talk all about it. Be sure to like and subscribe for more videos. The next episode of Wednesday Afternoon Worship drops next... What day was it again? Oh yeah, Wednesday.